I think when I reflect back on my time served, and when someone says thank you for your service to me, I didn't serve in that combat position where I was in the middle of a war. So when I think of the service and the sacrifice piece in relation to me specifically, I think of the mental health sacrifice. I think of how much my mental health degraded while I served. I think about how much my physical health degraded when I served. And I can get into more specifics here in a minute, but also think about the birthdays that I missed, the family that I didn't get to see grow up, especially as a woman, not wanting to start a family while I was serving in the military because I didn't feel that I personally was equipped to handle all the extra of being a parent on top of being in the military. Welcome to Your Story Doesn't End Here, the mental health podcast of military and veterans who refuse to be silenced. I'm your host, Rachel, and my mission with this podcast is to be a voice for those who don't have a voice, bring awareness to mental health issues, provide value and solutions, and to change the culture when it comes to mental health within the DoD organizations. Hey guys, it's Rachel here with another solo episode. I need to come up with a name for these solo episodes because I'm kind of digging them lately and I will probably be doing a lot more of them. So if you think of a clever name, let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'm trying to be better about checking my Instagram _YSDEH and go give me a follow on Instagram. The podcast, give the podcast a follow on Instagram. And it's a great way to show support. I am working on my social media skills. So you should be seeing a lot more content on there related to mental health and the podcast and everything in between. So anyway, that being said, getting into the episode today, I want to talk about something that has come up quite a bit lately in conversations that I've had with people. And a lot of it has to do with bridging this gap between the older generation and the newer generation. But the topic that I want to discuss today is what thank you for your service really means. Because I think a lot of people attribute vets with the World War II vets, the Vietnam vets, that older generation that went to war, that physically went to a location with guns and they were in the trenches and, everything that you envision with like the Vietnam War or like a World War II, right? But I'd say majority of today's military looks very different. A lot of people these days did serve during either a peacetime or maybe served in a support role that didn't see combat. I'm one of those. And I think that there is definitely a disconnect there, not only on the civilian side and really understanding what military service means, but also on the military side too, because we see a lot of the older vets that will hang out at like your VFWs and they can really relate to each other because maybe they served in the Vietnam War or they served in World War II or something related to a combat role. Even some of these people that are still serving active duty right now. If you look back at the episode I did with Sean Ambreitz early in the 2000s, he was actually in the thick of it with the war and gunfights and everything that most people probably envision when they think of the military. And when they say thank you for your service and thank you for your sacrifice, I think that's what a lot of people envision is that sacrifice. But I think there's a different type of sacrifice that a lot of people don't think of when they say thank you for your service to a member of the military. And that's what I really want to discuss today is the other side of things, the mental health side of things, the moving away from friends and family side of things, the constant changes. And I think a lot of us veterans, and even those of you that are still serving active duty, we don't ever stop and give ourselves that credit or really recognize just how many changes we go through constantly. And this is something that I've had to reflect on quite a bit because when I first separated from the military, I went through so many changes all at once between, separating from the service was a huge change. I happened to be pregnant when I was separating from the military. So that was another change. And then, I know it's kind of part of the transition, but going from working a job every single day to not working a job every single day, that to me feels like a separate change because the military, it encompasses so many things. There's a watch standing, there is showing up for the job every day, there's all the collateral duties that come with it. I mean, I feel like being in the military sometimes can be like three jobs in one because it's constantly change, 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 go, 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 something new all the time. And you have to learn things very quickly. And that's definitely a skill that I took from the military was the ability to learn things very quickly and process things very quickly. But going from that to that dead stop was a huge change. But even during my service, like from day one of the military, there is just constant changes happening. And I don't know if a lot of us really stop to reflect on that and realize just how many changes there are and give ourselves credit for how well we handle that or for maybe not handling it and not realizing that hey, there's a reason why it's hard to handle these things because not all of us come from a space prior to our service where things were changing all the time and maybe it's something that we have to get used to. And so something for you to reflect on if you're listening to this and you are active duty or maybe you're a veteran, something to just really get your wheels turning. But, I was on a podcast one time where someone asked me questions surrounding what my service meant to me. And I think when I reflect back on my time served and when someone says thank you for your service to me, I didn't serve in that combat position where I was in the middle of a war. So when I think of the service and the sacrifice piece in relation to me specifically, I think of the mental health sacrifice. I think of how much my mental health degraded while I served. I think about how much my physical health degraded when I served. And I can get into more specifics here in a minute, but also think about the birthdays that I missed, the family that I didn't get to see grow up, especially as a woman, not wanting to start a family while I was serving in the military because I didn't feel that I personally was equipped to handle all the extra of being a parent on top of being in the military. But to break these down a little more, when we talk about the physical health aspect, I mean, if you look at the way that most people in the military spend their day-to-day lives, work schedules are switching constantly. My one of my last commands had a day check, a night check, and a mid check, and it was constantly switching. So, some for a couple weeks you'd be on days, and then tomorrow, or you get a day in between, and then tomorrow come in at midnight, and you're working all night, and then do that for a couple weeks. Oh, and then on top of that, you're going on a detachment. So now you're going to be in a different time zone that's 11 hours ahead. And then you do that for a couple months, waking up at 3 a.m. every day to be at work, working all day long, and then back stateside, on that 3-shift schedule, and then back to another detachment in a different part of the world that's in a different time zone. And even those, I mean, I remember in Japan, because there were multiple aircraft out there. There's different schedules out there too. And then on top of that, if we're standing watches, then there's an even different schedule. So I think I want to say my last command had 12-hour watches. And so, on top of the one schedule that we would have, there was that watch schedule that would pop up every once in a while. Or if you were like me and kept missing muster, it was like every week for a few weeks. But the sleep aspect alone, I think that's why so many of us vets have sleep issues, because for years, for some people up to 20, 30 years, the sleep schedule is never consistent. And that can really, really take a toll physically because sleep is such an important part of how we function as human beings. And because of the sleep schedule sometimes, and sometimes not related to the sleep schedule, but the diet is another piece. I wasn't eating super great. There were days that we had to work for really long days and there wasn't the opportunity to eat a really good meal. It was like, here's this fast food, hurry up and get back to work, or skipping meals altogether because to me, it didn't feel worth it to leave, go get food and come back. or even like being on a detachment and the food just isn't great. I actually found out that I had IBS from being in Bahrain, and all the pasta and bread that I was constantly eating was really messing with my digestive system. And so the physical piece, and then there's that, the body, I don't want to say body dysmorphia for me, because I don't really feel that I had that specific struggle, but I definitely never felt like I was in a place where I was good enough. And I feel like a lot of that is related to the ridiculous body standards that the military has. And, we talk about this in a couple episodes if you listen back, but the constantly telling females and males alike that we have to fit in this mold of what is considered healthy, the BMI scale, taping. And I did do those unhealthy things to try to make sure that I wasn't failing my body composition test every single year. And what's crazy for me is that my height requirement for my body requires me to weigh under, I want to say it's 163 pounds. So when I left for boot camp, I was under that body weight requirement by like 3 or 4 pounds. And then when I got to boot camp, I was like right at the cutoff. As I graduated boot camp, I was right at the cutoff. And then from there, my body has never been at that number, but I think it really, that scale forces so many military members to fixate on a number on the scale, which is still really hard for me to this day to not fixate on the number on the scale, because that it's like a pass or fail, from that. And then, oh, if you don't pass the number on the scale, then you get taped. And for someone like me, I sometimes would be really close on the tape. And it's not because I was super, super out of shape. It was because that's just how my body is. But it can really take a toll on the mental health piece. So, the physical and the mental, I feel that they are very much intertwined. But on a mental health piece, I think that a lot of us that served in the military or are currently serving really focus so much on that physical aspect that the mental aspect falls to the wayside. And how do people deal with it? Most people are not dealing with mental health in healthy ways. And, you see a lot of people smoking, a lot of people drinking a lot. I internalized a lot of things, especially when I was on detachment. But I loneliness is a huge piece, and not even from like other members of the military. I tell people all the time that are civilians, check on your military friends, even if it's just a text every once in a while saying, hey, how are you doing? Like, those messages truly meant the world to me especially when I was on a detachment, because I was so lonely and I felt like there just wasn't anyone there. And I was around people all day, every day, but I felt so lonely all the time. A, I was on a different time zone, but B, people don't really check in. And it seems like when a lot of people leave their hometown, they go from, especially high schoolers, like they go from this place where friends and family are just around constantly to this place where people stop checking in. And the longer someone serves in the military, the more people stop checking in. And obviously, this isn't a blanket statement. Some people have very, very supportive friends and family that are there for life. And that's incredible. And I encourage you, if you are that supportive friend or family member, keep doing that, because it truly does make such a difference. But there are a lot of people in the military who have friends or family that don't check in, and it can be so easy to forget to check in, not because you don't care about someone, but because life gets in the way. And I understand that. I'm constantly in that position myself. Sometimes I literally have to remind myself on a calendar, like, hey, call this person, check in on this person, or as someone pops in my mind, send them a message right away, otherwise I'll forget. And so there's that huge mental health piece that I am so, so passionate about fixing one piece at a time. But I am such a big believer in just the simple act of checking in on people, because it can truly be life or death for someone. And depending on how bad their day is, or, how bad that period of life is for them, just hearing someone check in and say, hey, how are you doing? Sometimes can be that life or death decision making point for someone. So But yeah, I think at the end of the day, when people go up to the military, because I hear thank you for your service all the time, and it's still a little awkward for me to respond to. But there truly is, I mean, there truly is a massive sacrifice. And I don't think it's recognized enough because it does, like when you're in it, it just feels like a job. It just feels like a very overbearing job, at least for me. And I didn't reflect on a lot of this stuff until after I separated. And so again, I think that if you're active, if you're a reservist, even if you're a veteran, pat yourself on the back, make sure you give yourself credit because you did sacrifice a lot. And it is challenging to integrate back into the world that you knew prior to the military because the military changes us. And sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. I like to think that it's always for the better because every single situation that we go through in life, whether it's a hard one or an easy one or somewhere in between, we can always take something from that and use it to make us a better person. I'm so incredibly grateful for the things that I went through in the military, even though they sucked at the time. I spent a lot of time bitter while I served, but in reflection, I am who I am today, and I'm able to serve my veteran community and military community the way I can today because of what I went through. And so, I would go through it again if it means saving more lives of people that are serving today and changing things so that the military is a safer place for active duty males, females alike. And so anyway, that's my little spiel for today. It was really thinking about that generational gap between veterans and how, the thank you for your service. I think everyone has an idea in their mind of what that means. But next time you say thank you for your service to someone, I want you to think a little bit deeper about what that really means and what that might mean for that person. And it doesn't mean that it has to become a conversation piece, because a lot of times it's just kind of a formality, like when people ask, how are you today? It could be a conversation piece, depends on the conversation, but just to get your wheels turning, just to get you thinking a little deeper about what it is that military service means in 2023 compared to 1923, or, whatever gap. I mean, everything's changing literally every year. So, my experience is different than someone that joined yesterday, but that's all I had. And again, let me know if you think of any cool, clever names for my solo episodes, because I am going to do them a lot more often. I do like this topic based discussion, just talking about things that I think are important that really deal with mental health and touching back on a few things just to remind us all of what truly is important and what we need to be thinking about and focusing on, and um, just things that are on my heart. So anyway, I appreciate you listening in always. I appreciate the support on this podcast. And just a heads up for everyone that's in Whidbey Island, the event that was slated for May 2023 is now pushed to September of this year. It is called Save a Life. The website is savealifeevent.com. You heard me talk about it in a previous episode. And I'm so excited about what this event is going to do for the Whidbey Island, Washington community. If you are in Washington State in general, please go check out savealifeevent.com. Sign up for emails if you want updates on the event. If you are interested in sponsoring the event or donating towards the event, there is a sponsored tab on that website, and all donations are tax deductible. So feel free to spread the word on that. It is going to be such an incredible thing for the community, and I'm so excited about it. So that's enough on that. You'll hear more about this event as we get a little closer, but starting to do more tangible physical things to make a difference in my local community. And then stay tuned for more things on a national scale, but I can only handle so much at one time. So we're starting in one place and branching out from there. But again, thank you for listening in every single week. Episodes drop every Monday at 5 a.m. Eastern time. Please share, subscribe if you haven't. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It really does make such a huge difference. And you'll hear from me every single week. So till next time, guys, remember your story matters so much and we want to hear from you. So if you have a story to share, please reach out. Would love to hear from you, would love to hear your story. But know that if you are active duty, if you're a reservist, if you are a veteran, there are people out there that are fighting tooth and nail for you to have a better life in your time served, in your time outside of service, because you deserve that. Till next time, guys. Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. With your support, we are able to increase awareness of the mental health issues affecting service members and veterans today, with the goal of creating positive change. If you got value from this episode, please take 30 seconds to subscribe and share this episode within your own network. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your mental health matters, and your story doesn't end here.